Hey, welcome to the Uncomfortable is Okay podcast. I'm your host, Chris Desmond, and this is a show where we make you better at doing hard stuff. Now, if you guys have been following along with my social media, you'll know that I've started off writing a book. It's going to be a practical book about a whole lot of different strategies about how to get out of your comfort zone. And some of these Friday episodes are going to involve talking you through those strategies. So the first one that I'm going to talk about today is the 10x challenge, or the 10 times challenge. So what is it? So it's when you take an uncomfortable challenge or event that's overwhelming you just to think about it, and then multiply it by 10. Once you've multiplied it by 10, write down how you would take on that new challenge. And suddenly your original challenge doesn't seem quite as overwhelming anymore. So where do you apply it in your life? And this strategy is best applied to medium to long-term situations. Use it when you have or you want to plan a challenge or event in the future that's scary and overwhelming. It's especially helpful if you're struggling to plan for the challenge because it overwhelms you when you even think about it. So this strategy in action, I stole this one from Grant Axe Rawlinson. And Axe is big on human-powered adventure. And he decided that he wanted to row across the Tasman Sea from Australia to New Zealand. And for those of you familiar with the area, this is an incredible difficult row. You'll know hostile waters and winds the whole way across. And the physical difficulty of the row isn't the only obstacle to overcome. There's a tremendous amount of effort required from creating a support team, raising money, preparing your boat and equipment, risk management, training physically, training mentally, and to raise enough courage even to get to the starting line. And given all of these factors, it's not difficult to see why only a handful of attempts have been successful. So Axe found it quite difficult to come to terms with how epic the challenge of rowing the Tasman was. And he's done some pretty epic stuff, including climbing Everest and multiple other human-powered adventures. But rather than letting himself be paralyzed by fear, he 10 times his challenge. He thought, what if I travel from Singapore, which is his current home, back to New Zealand, where he grew up, completely under human power? And once he started thinking about this, suddenly rowing the Tasman didn't seem like such a big deal anymore. So Axe prepped for the bigger and better adventure and got to work. So he rowed 4,200 kilometres from Singapore to Darwin, the first time that's ever been done, Darwin, Australia. Once he got there, he got on his bike and he cycled from Darwin to Coffs Harbour. And at Coffs Harbour, he got back into his boat and set out for New Zealand. But unfortunately, the winds in the waters of the Tasman didn't let him through that last part, and he was blown back to Australia, the coast of Australia, after about 3 weeks at sea. But Axe is coming back to finish the job and do it again, and this epic adventure that he set out on is going to be completed someday soon, I'm sure. But it came about by 10 timesing his original challenge, that original challenge that was overwhelming him to start with. So why does multiplying your original challenge by 10, why does it work? And often we have a challenging task coming up, or even better, one that we've set ourselves that it seems out of reach for us. We become wrapped up in the detail and lose the ability to process and prioritize tasks to move forward. And this is usually due to fear around what tackling the challenge will involve. Asking ourselves to multiply our original challenge by 10 usually leaves us with an event that is kind of beyond our capability to fathom completing. And planning for this huge event is usually easier for us than the small challenge. Increasing the size of the event means that our plan needs to be simplified initially. We're forced to think of the big things that need to happen in order to get it done. We stay out of the minutiae that wraps us up and drags us down. And then once we've got that list of big tasks, we can go ahead and start ticking them off separately. It also improves our relationship to potential failure. Were we to fail in our original challenge, then we may perceive that others would view us negatively because we can't step outside of our comfort zone and get something done. However, if we fail at this huge challenge, then who really cares? Because no one expected us to be able to take on something that massive anyway. Changing our relationship to this failure also allows us to take action to move forward. So if you've got a big challenge coming up, I'd encourage you to try out this 10x strategy to see if it's helpful for you planning, getting out of your comfort zone and tackling something big in the medium to long term. There's going to be a lot more of these strategies, and I don't have a timeline for the book coming out yet, but hopefully it's sometime in the next 6 months. Flick me a message on social media. I would love to know if you're interested in grabbing yourself a copy when it does come out. Test out the strategy, and thank you so much for getting uncomfortable with me today.